let's do this. But real quick, what y'all think about the fights last night?
Oh, yeah, I was going to get your take on them too, man, if you want to, by all means, man. But I thought that was an awesome night, man.
You know, I'm just telling you that what's his name, the Russian soldier, what's his name,
Karatanov?
or Karatanov, man, he was just patiently just stalking down Arlovsky. You know, Arlovsky, you know, me and him have some, we fought before and back and forth, but he's a really cool guy. I think once after he knocks you out, really cool with you, I guess. I don't know what it is, but he's really cool. I wanted him to win, but I just didn't see him. I just didn't think he could pull it off because he, right off the bat, if you notice, he was really timid and kind of holding back. His foot movement was good, but as soon as he was throwing his strikes, he was already backing up and already leaning back so he wouldn't get countered. And it finally caught up to him right when he got in the back of the cage. He got his back to the cage and dropped his hands and got caught.
Yeah. Yeah, and I almost hate to say it, man. I think Arlovsky's to the point where it might, you know, not to disrespect the guy, but I think it might be time to maybe hang it up. You know,
guys, I'm gonna put it out there. If I get knocked out like that more than twice, please call me, email me, send me packages. Say, hey, you know, send me some hooks or some door hooks or something. Tell me to hang it up because, man, that's just a lot of, you know, there's only so much you can get your eggs scrambled so many times, and this is not good. And I'll take any critic's word. If I'm getting dropped like that, I mean, no offense to a lot, it's just, you know, it's just his mind ain't right. You know, he's thinking about something else. And please, guys, give me a call and tell me that. I will.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know for the love of the sport, you know, a fighter like that, a fighter like yourself, the love of the sport, it's hard to hang it up. You know, a guy like Chuck Liddell had the hardest time in the world hanging the gloves up, you know, because he just he loves fighting so much, you know.
You know what it is? You know, I've been in the sport for quite some time now, and you know, I've met guys that are way older than me that've been fighting K1 or, you know, John Claude Lier, a lot of guys, a couple of guys from AK. And it's hard. It seems that it's harder for a striker, any type of striker, to walk away from a sport. And it's kind of irrelevant because, I mean, it's kind of true because you look at boxing, you see these guys in there still boxing 43, 44, 40, you know, 40 years old. It's for some reason, it's hard for a striker to call it quits. And I think that's probably the hardest thing. If you're a striker, it's going to be hard for you to cut it off. I think grapplers and wrestlers, I think they just, you know, they train so hard and they put so much into it. I think it's easier for them to walk away. You know, it's just my point of view that I think strikers just have a harder time. You know, just because I've met so many guys that are a lot older than me that been in K1, been in kickboxing, been in boxing, and it's just hard for them to make up.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Is there anything else? Well, what do you think of the Fedor loss, man? I mean,
you know, I mean, like I said, I was on the Sure Dog Radio a couple weeks ago, and they asked me who was picked to win the tournament, and I said Josh Barnett. And they go, what? Well, you're not thinking Fedor? I was like, I just don't think Fedor just has it in him anymore. I don't think Fedor has that drive, that heart, and that want anymore like he used to. I think he lost it. You know, from the Affliction fight to, you know, losing to Verdum, I just think he just lost that drive and lost that motivation. I just think he's good with himself now. You know, I mean, you know, it's just something weird, and it clearly showed during his fight that he looked good, you know, but he wasn't in that great of shape. I mean, the best shape I ever saw him in was when he was training for Josh Barnett. I mean, he was lean, he was ready to go. I think that he was going to be his toughest fight, but he just didn't look right mentally. And just that whole round, I think he blew his wad a little fast. I think he wasn't. It's just, you know, there's a lot of variables, but he just didn't look like the Fedor that was there 3-4 years ago. He just, you know, I think he's good with himself. You know, like you said at the end, I think it's just God's will that he walks away now. I think he's comfortable with himself. I just don't think he has a drive anymore.
He's content. You know, I mean, there's no reason to keep going on. He's content with where he's at. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
it does. And another thing is too, it's hard. It's hard to lose and then try to pick yourself back up. You got to think he went 28 fights without losing, and you know, he has that cut and he got disqualified and stuff like that. But a serious loss like Verdum, it's hard to pick yourself up. You know, some of these guys that are coming up. You know, in MMA, you're going to lose. You're eventually going to lose, and the biggest test is how do you handle that loss? How do you pick yourself up off the ground and realize that, hey, I lost. You know, I made some mistakes. I'm not the guy anymore, and try to pick yourself up. That's probably the hardest part is losing and telling yourself that you can still do this sport.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, man. That's a great point. I would think a lot of times losing in anything, it's hard to want to keep doing it. You know, to keep facing adversity like that, and you know, it's tough.
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. But you have to really reach deep down inside and and find out who you are and see if you still want to do this. You know, I was in that point a couple of times, and I've lost some fights I shouldn't have lost, and you know, and you look back at it and you're like, you know, I want to keep doing this. You know, well, you know, my health. You know, you have to keep questioning yourself and talk to yourself. It's kind of weird. You know, it's like one of those moments that you have a outer body vision or talking with, and you're just talking to yourself. You know, trying to figure out if you know this is what you want to do. But you just have to find it deep down inside that, hey, that fire's still lit. Let's just put some more wood on it.
Yeah. A little soul searching to figure out what you want to do with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's tough.
Any other fights you want to run over? You ready to dive into these questions? What do you think, Paul?
You know, yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that was probably the best. You know, probably the top 5 fight cards that were on TV. Every fight was good. Every fight was exciting. You know, I think that was a good showing for Strikeforce. I think that was a really good showing for Strikeforce. I think now that people start seeing on YouTube these fights, how good these fights were, I think the next showing for Strikeforce for the tournament is going to have more viewers. I don't know what they had for viewers. Did you have any ideas what they get for viewers?
You know what? I didn't check on that. I probably should have. I'm interested to find out myself, man, big time.
Yeah.
It had to have been good, though.
It definitely. I guarantee $1 that they're going to probably almost double, maybe even another 25% more viewers on the next part of the Grand Prix, because it was some really good fights.
Yeah. It was a great card, man.
It was a great card. I had fun watching it. So let's jump into these questions. What we got?
Sure. We got, first up, we got...
You guys need to drink some Red Bull or something. You guys are like just dragging, like you guys have no pep in your talk. Come on, wake up over there.
Okay, we're getting to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Buentello is with us. No.
Yeah. Stretch out. Come on, wake up.
Yeah. What would you say is your main course of action to get back to the big show UFC? Well, it's kind of a question.
Yeah, no, it is. It's one of those questions like, just fight. You know, everybody always asks, you know, how'd you get into MMA? How'd you get so far into it? How'd you do this? Just fight. Just fight. Well, now that it's the year 2011, you know, I've had troubles in 2010 of not having problems finding fights, just having problems on the financial side. So now, you know, the new test is find the fights, fight the fights that call, and get a deposit and make sure their checks are going to cash. But the main thing is I got to fight, I got to win, I got to fight as hard as I can, like as hard as I've done in the past, and let the hands go and let the UFC. You know, the UFC knows what I'm capable of. They like the idea that I go out there and bang and leave it on the line, but I got to do my job and do it correctly. And the whole thing is get the fights, get the W's, and get back in the show.
So let me throw this at you. This is kind of a side question, but say you get just some stand and bang, fucking knockout, nasty wins. Can you bet that they would be calling, or how does it work? You know, I don't want to just assume that's how it works, but
you know, that's just one of those things. You never know the way the sport's moving. You know, the Strikeforce is moving really fast. UFC is in cruise control. They're doing great. You know, I get a couple of wins in, and you never know. Strikeforce might call. You know, the UFC might call. It's just one of those things. Is when that phone rings or that somebody knocks on that door, just get ready to answer and be ready to go. The thing is that's so different right now is that I'm in a position that I have to stay in shape. I have to be ready to jump into a training camp and be ready to fight. Before, you know, having a Strikeforce or a UFC contract, you knew when your fight was coming up. You knew how to spread your time out. Then, you know, spread your time out to where you jump into training camp. But, you know, now that I'm in a different position, I'm on the outside looking in on both these organizations. I have to be ready to jump on a fight. Anything that calls, I have to be ready to go and jump on it. So that's the whole thing now. The focus is to be ready for whatever pops up.
Awesome, man. This one is kind of on the other side of the spectrum, but and I'm looking forward to this question, obviously, in your story as well. But what is your most memorable moment with the late Evan Tanner?
The memorable moment is when, you know, I have to say, you know, you think back at Evan Tanner, and, you know, I went to school with him. I was 3 grades behind him, so when I was a freshman, he was a junior. And he had the same persona, the same walk, the same look, the same talk back in high school. It just seems like he just was him, and he was on his own ride. It's just, you know, knowing Evan that far back, and you see how he was before he's passing, it was just the same Evan. You know, he's just trying to find himself. And probably one of the best times we had fun was